Cheating ex-wife returns with another man's kid. Wants family back. I slammed door. So, a few days back, my ex-wife Angela showed up at my front door out of nowhere. She's standing there with some little boy, another man's kid, and she's got the nerve to say she wants us to be a family again. I didn't even think twice. I just shut the door right in her face. Slammed it, really. Let me give you the rundown on how we got here, because it's been a long, messy road. Me and Angela, we go way back. I'm 37 now, she's 36, and we first crossed paths when I was about 24. We were both working at this firm. Nothing fancy, just a regular office job. And that's where it all started. We hit it off, dated for a couple years, and by the time I was 26, we tied the knot. Things were good for a while. 3 years into the marriage, we had our first daughter. She's 9 now. And then 2 years later, our second girl came along, who's 7. That second one wasn't planned, and Angela wasn't thrilled about it. I told her straight up I'd support whatever she wanted, even if she didn't want to keep it, because I wasn't about to force her into anything. She decided to go through with it anyway. After our first kid, life was still sweet. We were happy, in love, all that good stuff. But when that second pregnancy hit, everything changed. Angela turned into a different person, grumpy, short-tempered, always snapping at me, or our oldest girl. I figured it was just the hormones messing with her, so I tried to roll with it. I told myself this new, cranky Angela would fade away once the baby came. But it didn't. It got worse. Me and my oldest, we started tiptoeing around her, scared to set her off. I was handling everything, work, the kids, the house, even though she was supposed to be the one staying home. See, she quit her job after our first daughter was born, said she wanted to focus on the family. Back then, she did it all. Cooking, cleaning, looking after our girl while I brought home the paycheck. But once she got pregnant again, she said she was too worn out to keep up with the house and the kids. So we hired a housekeeper. It stretched our budget thin. I wasn't exactly raking it in, but I didn't want to push Angela, especially while she was carrying our second kid. I thought once the baby was here, she'd step back up and take over again. I wasn't some lazy husband either. After a long day at work, I'd come home beat, but I'd still pitch in, washing dishes, whatever needed doing. I figured after our youngest was born, Angela would take a few months to recover. Then we'd get back to normal. But months went by, and she didn't bounce back. She stayed just as mad, just as prickly, and wouldn't lift a finger around the house. She'd park herself on the couch all day, staring at the television. Didn't even spend time with the girls, just paid the neighbor lady to take them to the park now and then. I'm not trying to sound bitter, but it got to me. I was busting my tail at work, paying for a housekeeper to handle all the cooking and cleaning, plus every other bill, and I wanted to save something for my daughter's future. That wasn't happening with Angela sitting there doing nothing. About 6 months after our youngest came along, I knew we couldn't keep going like that. I had to talk to her. I asked my parents to watch the girls for a day, and they said sure. So I sat Angela down and laid it out. I said I knew 2 pregnancies had worn her out, but I needed her to meet me halfway. The housekeeper was breaking us financially, and I asked her to start pitching in again, even just a little, so we could cut back on the help and save some cash. She shot down fast, said she was too busy with the kids to do anything else, and told me I should quit whining about money and make more instead. I explained I was already doing all I could, and she needed to step up too if we were going to make this marriage work. Then I made a dumb move. I mentioned how she wasn't really watching the kids anyway, just letting them sit in front of the television with her all day, watching garbage reality shows. The housekeeper had let that slip to me once, just casual talk. Big mistake bringing it up. Angela lost it, accused me of having the housekeeper spy on her. She went off, yelling that she was done being bossed around by me, that I sat at a desk all day while she slaved away. It didn't even make sense. She was twisting everything to make me the bad guy. We ended up in a huge blowout. She called me a loser who couldn't afford her, and I fired back, calling her a lazy cow who'd already screwed up as a mom. Our oldest was terrified of her, and now she was tanking as a wife too. That hit her hard. She shoved me, and I mean hard. I stumbled, crashed into the coffee table, and smashed right through the glass. Hurt my back pretty bad. Had to go to the emergency room. She cried the whole time, saying she was sorry, but the damage was done. It wasn't anything too serious, just cuts and bruises, but it could have been worse, and I didn't trust her anymore. I told her she had to leave. I couldn't risk her flipping out like that around the kids. My parents took the girls for a bit, and for a week, Angela begged me to forgive her, swearing it wouldn't happen again. I wasn't buying it. I almost filed for divorce right then, but she pleaded for one more chance. We settled on her moving out to her parents' place, getting therapy, and only coming back if a doctor said she was fixed. I wasn't ready to end it completely, didn't want my girls growing up without a mom, so I gave her that shot. She agreed something was wrong with her, and I knew happy folks don't act like that. So, Angela moved out to her folks' place, and we started trying to patch things up from a distance. My parents came to live with me to help with the girls while she was gone. We'd go to marriage counseling once a week, and for a while, it felt like we might actually pull through. I checked in with her therapist, who told me she was dealing with something called postpartum depression. That's why she'd been so angry. It wasn't like her before, but it got way out of hand when she shoved me. That mess with the coffee table was a wake-up call for both of us. We kept at it for almost a year. About 6 months in, I even let her see the girls, but only with me there watching. She started acting more like the old Angela, the one I'd fallen for, and I thought maybe we had a real chance. Then, out of the blue, everything fell apart. She stopped showing up to counseling, no warning, no reason. She dodged my calls, barely answered my texts. Her therapist said she was still improving, so I couldn't figure out what was going on. For weeks, I kept trying to reach her, but she just brushed me off, saying she needed space. After nearly 3 months of that, I'd had enough. I decided to go see her at her parents' house. I hadn't gone before because her mom and dad never liked me. They thought I'd somehow messed her up and made her act crazy. Angela had warned me to steer clear, said it'd just stir up trouble we didn't need. But she was acting so strange, I couldn't sit back anymore. I broke the rule and drove over. I figured she'd be home when I got there, but she wasn't inside. Her parents wouldn't tell me where she was, just shut the door in my face. I could tell they were getting a kick out of it, and it gave me a bad feeling. Standing there on their porch, I tried calling her over and over. No answer. I was starting to lose it, so I went around back, thinking I'd sneak in through the kitchen door they always left unlocked. Didn't even need to. There she was, sitting on this old swing they had in the yard, locked lips with some guy I'd never seen before. I froze. That image, it's burned into my head, the worst moment of my life, and I still can't shake it. The guy pulled back when he spotted me, and by the time Angela turned around, I was already heading for my car. She ran after me, yelling my name, trying to explain, but I couldn't hear her over the noise in my own head. She grabbed at my arm, but I shook her off and told her not to touch me. She backed off, and I got in my car and peeled out. When I got home, I blocked her on everything, phone, email, all of it. I didn't want to hear a word she had to say. I told my parents what I'd seen and said we needed a lawyer fast. They were living with me by then, helping with the girls, and they jumped on it. I didn't see Angela again until we had to sit down with a mediator for the divorce. By that point, I was a shell, just going through the motions for my daughter's sake. I'd shut down, didn't feel a thing. Even when I found out she was giving up her rights to the girls, I didn't flinch. She decided she was done with us, wanted to be with that guy. Let's call him Sean. Turns out he was an old friend from way back, someone she'd lost touch with after high school. They'd hooked up again when she moved in with her parents, and she fell for him. Her folks were all for it, too. Guess they'd always wanted her with Sean. They didn't care she was still married with 2 kids. Said she was finally putting herself first, like she'd ever done anything else. The divorce dragged on because Angela tried to get alimony, even after cheating. Me and my lawyer fought tooth and nail, and in the end, she got nothing. I've been the one paying for everything. House, kids, all of it, while she sat around. 5 years ago, we wrapped it up, and she walked away empty-handed. Those months were brutal, but I couldn't let myself break. My girls only had me, and my parents stepped up big time, looking after them while I worked and dealt with the legal mess. I owe them more than I can ever repay. Back then, splitting from Angela felt like the end of the world, but now I'm grateful. If I hadn't left, I wouldn't be where I am today. Life's been good to me since. I've got a better job, more money, and we moved into a bigger place. It's just me and my daughters now, and I don't have to waste cash on anyone else. My parents live nearby, stop by sometimes, and I've got buddies who've got my back. My girls are happy, and that's all I need. I was thanking my lucky stars every day until Angela showed up again. It was a regular morning. The girls were at school, and I was about to head to work when the doorbell rang. I opened it, and there she was standing with this little boy, maybe 3 or 4 years old. Had to be her kid. Before I could even process it, she started bawling, saying she was sorry and wanted to fix things. Said she was ready to be a family again, like we could just pick up where we left off. I couldn't believe she had the guts to show up after all this time and act like it was her call to make. I didn't let her get far. I told her flat out, this ain't her family anymore. I stopped being her husband the day she cheated with Sean. The divorce was just paperwork, and she'd sign away her rights to our girls herself. She had no claim on us. Then I shut the door, told her to get lost, and that was that. I wanted to lay into her, but I held back because of the kid. She stood out there crying for a bit. I could hear her through the door, but I ignored it. Once she was gone, I headed to work, trying to push it out of my mind. Couldn't let her mess with my head again. I almost had myself convinced that Angela showing up was just a bad dream I could shake off. But then I got home from work that day, and my phone rang. It was my parents, and they were hot under the collar, demanding to know why I'd sent her packing. They said Angela called them after I shut the door on her, cried her eyes out, totally wrecked. Turns out, they were the ones who gave her my new address and told her to come see me. Said she was splitting from Sean and saw it as her big chance to make things right with me. According to them, she'd reached out a month ago, and they'd been cooking this up for a while. They figured it was time I thought about the girls, said they needed a mom, and who better than Angela? They'd gone ahead and handed her the playbook, where to find me, what to say, without even checking if I'd be okay with it. I was steaming mad. It wasn't their call to forgive her and let her waltz back into my life. I laid into them, so they had no right to pull that without asking me. What if the girls had been home? Could have been a real disaster, and it was reckless as hell. I told them off, but they wouldn't back down. Kept saying they didn't do anything wrong. They reminded me how they'd helped during the divorce, watching the kids, and even now, they pitch in sometimes. Said it was my choice whether to patch things up with Angela, but they had just as much say in what's best for the girls, and I couldn't take that from them. I thought that was nonsense. These are my daughters, not theirs. Sure, I'm grateful for all they've done. Couldn't have gotten through the divorce without them, but that doesn't mean they get to decide Angela's welcome back. We argued hard, but they turned it around, said I was the one being selfish, shutting her out like that. Claimed they'd checked her out, swore she's different now, and deserved to be part of the girls' lives. I brought up how she'd signed away her rights, but they got offended, said it was insulting I'd think they'd put me or the girls in danger. Accused me of wrecking everything by being too stubborn to see the girls need their mom. It's been a few days since that blowout, and I've been chewing it over nonstop, wondering if I was wrong to turn Angela away, if I should have given her another shot at being a mom. But I don't think I'm out of line. I've got my reasons, and I'm sticking to them. About a week later, the real bombshell hit. I found out the truth about my parents and Angela, and it's got me so twisted up I barely know where to start. It's not just that they gave her my address. They've been talking to her this whole time. After the divorce, I cut her out completely, but they didn't. So they always figured she'd come around someday. It wasn't constant, just a call once a month or so, but that's enough to feel like a knife in my back. Turns out, when I filed for divorce, Sean made her choose, ditch her old family and start fresh with him, or fight for the girls and lose him. My parents said it tore her up, but she picked Sean, walked away from us to build something new with him. She called them right after I started the divorce, explained her mess, and begged them to keep her tied to the girls somehow. Said she was trapped. Either I'd lock her out with full custody, or Sean would make her cut ties completely. Even if she fought Sean and went for custody, her odds were slim with the cheating and that temper she couldn't control. She'd likely lose him and the girls both, so she leaned on my parents. They met her on the down low and agreed to be her lifeline. She knew signing away her rights meant no legal way to see the girls, but my parents could, and they worked that angle. For years, they pulled it off behind my back. Whenever I dropped the girls off at their place, they'd call Angela over to hang out with them. The girls never spilled it because my parents bribed them, dolls, candy, whatever it took to keep them quiet. If I asked what they did over there, they'd say they played with Grandma and Grandpa and their friend. I thought it was just some old pal of my folks I already knew. Nope, that's what they told the girls to call Angela if I got nosy. I couldn't believe my own daughters were keeping secrets, but I don't blame them. They're kids, and Angela and my parents scared them into it. When I finally confronted the girls after my parents spilled the beans, they broke down crying, said they couldn't tell me or God would punish them. That's how deep Angela and my folks drilled it into their heads. I feel like a lousy dad for not digging deeper. Never asked who this friend was. Could have been anybody, someone worse than Angela, and I'd never have known. But I'm done now. I'm getting a restraining order against all three of them. Got proof too. My parents sent me an email a couple days after our fight, laying it all out. Thought it'd make me see how desperate Angela was to stay a mom without losing Sean. Maybe soften me up. Didn't work. Just showed me they're all liars I can't trust. Funny thing is, Angela gave up her rights and snuck around like a thief to see the girls. All for Sean, her so-called soulmate. Now he's ditching her anyway. They've got a son together, but my parents say Sean's checked out. Got a job offer somewhere else. Plans to move in a couple months. Angela's working again. They're boys in kindergarten here, and she won't follow him. They've been fighting for months, and 3 months back, he said he's done, taking the job and leaving. Doesn't want the family life if it means giving up his dreams. My parents thought I'd feel bad for her, but all I feel is justice catching up. I've talked to my lawyer, filed for those restraining orders, and sat the girls down. Told them they won't see their grandparents or mom anymore. They're okay with it for now, but we're starting therapy to sort it out. This mess has been rough on them for 5 years, and it stops here. Man, I can't tell you how much it means to have folks out there rooting for me and my girls. A week or so after Angela showed up with her kid, things have been moving fast. I've been locking everything down tight. Got restraining orders served on my parents and Angela. They've got a court date coming up soon. I don't know what they're thinking about it, and I don't care. I've blocked them on every phone, app, you name it. Told my buddies not to talk to them if they reach out either. I've beefed up security at the house. Cameras, new locks, the works, and I've been working from home lately to keep an eye on things. I even called the girls' school, filled them in on what's happening. At first, I was going to keep the girls home for a bit, but I didn't want them missing out on learning because of this mess. So now the teachers are watching them close, and nobody but me can pick them up. I'm doing everything I can to make sure Angela and my parents can't get near us, because I know they'll try something. So far, it's holding steady, and I'm hoping once those restraining orders stick, they'll back off for good. Then came the court day, and we sealed the deal. The judge laid it down. Angela and my parents have to stay away from me and my daughters for the next 5 years. If they don't, they're in for some serious trouble. I'm not letting my guard down, though. Last time I saw them, they looked furious, and I'm not taking chances. All the security stuff I put in place, that's staying for a while. Me and the girls, we're going to family counseling regular now. It's been helping already, and I think in a few months, we'll be in a real good spot. All I want is for my daughters to come out of this happy. That's it. So keep sending those good thoughts our way. We could use every bit of it. Hey folks, I just wanted to give you a quick heads up on how things are going. We got those restraining orders locked in, and for the next 5 years, Angela and my parents have to steer clear of me and my girls. If they don't, they're in deep trouble, and I'm counting on that keeping them away. I'm not easing up yet, though. Those three looked mighty ticked off last time I saw them in court, so I'm keeping all the security stuff around the house for now. Better safe than sorry. Me and my daughters, we're sticking with the family counseling sessions every week, and it's doing us a world of good. We've already come a long way, and I reckon in a few months, we'll be even stronger. My only goal here is making sure my girls are happy. That's all that matters to me. So please, keep us in your thoughts. We're grateful for every bit of support.